This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
I'm Bob Joseph. This is the Friday edition, the episode you have been waiting for. September 27th, 2024, and we are opening up the phone lines for you. 607-772-1290. WNBF. Good morning, America. The weekend is in sight. Coming up in 2 hours, 48 minutes, and 7 seconds. The weekend will begin. And as part of the transitional time between your work week and your weekend, we offer you Binghamton Now. Yes, it's live, and sadly, I have no talking points. But somehow every day I muddle through with 0 talking points. And I think it works out swimmingly. So what's on your mind? We can talk about the issues, Binghamton and beyond. Obviously, it's a locally originated program, so local topics are embraced with enthusiasm, but given the fact that the presidential election now is 39 days away, we are more than able to discuss the election, the candidates, the vice presidential debate. I, for one, I'm looking forward to next Tuesday night with the vice presidential candidates having a chance to face each other and answer some important questions. I have a high level of confidence in the CBS moderators, the legendary Norah O'Donnell and the powerful Margaret Brennan, asking the vice presidential candidates significant questions on the issues that will decide the future of America. I should have written that down. That actually turned out quite well. The issues. So we can talk about that. We can talk about some other things happening in our area. And we're always working on additional local news coverage, because even though this is a fairly small area, the Triple Cities, with our primary focus on Broome County and also Tioga County, we do our best to ferret out some of the stories that otherwise would be overlooked. And I have an interesting story. I've been working on this for the last couple of days. It's just one of those curiosities about something going on. If you've ever been driving by someplace, or maybe something's going on in your neighborhood and nobody knows what's the story is, what's going on. You see activity and you think, well, if they're doing this across the street from my house, why didn't they announce what's going on? So sometimes people see something and then they say, I wish there was a way to know what's going on there. Well, such a situation came up this week, and a few people have contacted me and said, well, nobody else knows. Maybe you can find out for us. So I'm working on something. Again, don't get your hopes up that it's the biggest scoop of the week. It's just an interesting story, and who knows, maybe by the end of the day we'll get some answers, or maybe we'll just have to say nobody knows. So far, working on a particular story, everybody I've been in touch with is, well, we really don't know, or, well, I think we know, but we don't know for sure. So it's one of those stories. It's not, and nothing nothing that's going to rise to the level of Leslie Stahl and the 60 Minutes news van coming into Broome County. But, just as they say, it's one of those more interesting stories, a curiosity, I would say. Taking a look at WNBF.com, where I post my stories. We did an update on the O'Reilly Auto Parts store that is being built. It's almost completed on East Main Street in Endicott. So it appears it's going to open in November. The company has not publicly announced the targeted opening date. But anyway, that lot that had been unused for so many decades now will be used. And as many people have observed, that's exactly what this area needs, is another car parts store. So O'Reilly Auto Parts will finally have a presence in the Binghamton market within just a few weeks. So you can see that story on our website, WNBF.com. 9:16 Binghamton now on this Friday morning. Let's go to the phones and say good morning. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. My first name is Faith, and I'm calling from West Corners area.
Morning.
Good morning. I just want to share with you how much I enjoyed buying my first box of Malomars. And it was because of all your publicity for them. They are absolutely wonderful.
Aren't they great? For all the talk that I do about, say, eating sugary snacks or salty snacks or drinking sugary beverages, I try to enjoy them all in moderation. So I talk a lot, say, about Malomars, but the reality is, over the course of a Malomar season, might actually buy 2 boxes. There are 18 cookies per box. And as you look at the serving size, if you limit yourself, say, to 2 cookies, that's 120 calories. It's not like it's going to put your health in jeopardy.
Exactly. And that's why I was so tempted to try them, because you've recommended them. And one is great. Goes a long way, and absolutely delicious.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to call you and tell you they're kind of on sale, too.
Yeah, I noticed. The weird thing is, someone I know contacted someone who's familiar with the marketing, and I found out that they would be on sale at some point. They're usually every Malomar season, they're on sale, say, for 1 or 2 weeks, and usually once at the beginning of the season, and then sometimes another time a little further in. But I mistimed my Malomars purchase, so I wound up buying a box. I think it was last week, or maybe about a little over a week or so ago. So I paid the regular price, which is fine. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not,
right. Exactly.
Yeah,
they're a treat.
And then I had dinner with a friend the other night, and my friend said, so also, since we're close by, why don't we head over to that big store that everybody talks about, and let's go, because he, too, had heard about Malomars, and he said, I'm going to stop over there on our way home, and we will get some. And it turns out the big sale was on, and he's saying, like, look, I saved on 2 boxes. I saved $2.98 or something. I said, timing's everything. And I was tempted to take advantage of that sale, and then I thought, I try not to have too much of that in my house to try to avoid temptation. But still, the bottom line is those things have been so delicious, and most of them are sold right here in New York State or New Jersey.
That's the best part.
I know. And the other ironic part is they're not made in the U.S. They're made at a factory in Canada near Toronto, and the people in Canada can't buy them. So even it's only Malomars, at least the last I knew, Malomars were only being sold in U.S. markets, primarily New York, New Jersey, and some limited distribution in Florida for retired New Yorkers. But last I knew, you couldn't buy Malamars in Canada, or at least not on a regular basis. Might be some people who, sneak them in, but it's typically, I think they're only sold here in the U.S.
That kind of went out with the Hershey factory, I guess.
Yeah, but did you hear about the Hershey factory in Smiths Falls? They fired it back up.
Oh, really?
Hershey bought it back from the weed company, from Canopy Growth. Apparently, I don't know what their legal status is now, but they had so many problems that their weed factory that they set up growing cannabis at the old Hershey Canada plant, it wasn't going well, so Hershey bought it back.
Well, that's a piece of good news.
Yes, it is.
Years ago that I was up at the Canada area, and I haven't been up there in years. So I wasn't aware of that, and I probably will never go up there again, but that's a good piece to pass on to anybody going to Canada.
Yeah. Did you ever go on the walking tour through the plant?
Oh, absolutely.
Wasn't that great?
And spent the time down where you can get your own candy and put it in a bag. And
yes. Do you know what the one thing that they had there that, as far as I know, was, at least at the time that I visited the Hershey Canada plant in Smiths Falls, Ontario, they were making a candy called cherry blossoms. Mm-hmm. Did you ever see those? So what it was, So it was in it was a cube-like box, a bright yellow box. In fact, the packaging was quite similar in design and color to the Malamars package, but it's just a little piece of candy, a cherry enrobed with, I think, glycerin for sweetness, and then coconut, and then peanuts, and then milk chocolate. And one of my favorite candies, and then after the Hershey Canada plant was shut down several years ago, I don't think they were available anywhere, but now that the plant is running again, I assume they're making those again. I'll have to drive up there this weekend. Well,
whatever information you pass on, we always appreciate it.
Well, thank you for calling. Thank you, Faith.
Bye.
923 WNBF. Malomars, cherry blossoms, Moxie. That's a pretty well-balanced diet. I'll run that by Dr. Sanjay Gupta when I see him. See what he thinks about. Bob, do you really eat that? Well, that's just for breakfast. 607-772-1290. This is Bob Joseph, presiding over Binghamton's most wonderful talk show. 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, always available on the free WNBF app. As we return to the phones on this Friday, good morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
My name is John. I'm calling from Bristol. I have a question to ask you. If you know if Buddy Boeheim, if he's still playing pro ball, or did he get pushed out of another team or something? Jim Boeheim's son.
Yeah, Buddy Boeheim. That's a good question.
Jim Boeheim's son. He was playing for Detroit Pistons.
That's a good question, because I haven't heard anything about our good buddy in a while. I hadn't even thought.
Yeah, Buddy Boeheim. And another question I want to know, where's Sam Sutton playing? I think he's done with college. Is he overseas, or is he playing NBA? He played for BU. He was real good.
Let's see, the latest. I punched up from the Buddy Boeheim update. It says Buddy Boeheim has signed with the NBA's Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh, Oklahoma Thunder. He was with Detroit Pistons, wasn't
right.
he? Yeah, he got transferred out. Yeah, he's a real good player. I saw him play high school ball. He's real good. And another guy from Philadelphia there, his name was Sammy Sutton. He played for Binghamton University 2 years and transferred and went to, I think, Penn State. He was real good.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's playing overseas or not.
I don't know what his status is, but at least
don't know.
Buddy.
And what's the status on that girl, Kai Moon? She played for BU with the girls' team. She went overseas, I think. She was really good. She averaged like 16, 17 points a game.
Yeah, she was great. Let me see.
Kai Moon was her name.
Well, I'm trying to see if...
Roger Neal probably know more about that.
Yeah, he would. I wish he was here.
Okay, thank you. Anyway,
okay.
I'll
if I find out anything, I'll let you know.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Kai Moon. So, a quick check. So, the first thing that pops up with a quick news search online is a story from 2021. So, that was 3.5 years ago. Basketball star Kai Moon finds success on and off the court. And that was a story written by my good buddy. Well, he's been on the program before several times. I think he might still listen occasionally. Chris Coker wrote the story in January 2021. And it was a Bing U News story about Kai Moon. And early 2021, during her time at Binghamton, she earned plenty of accolades as part of the Bearcats women's basketball team. Before the 2019-2020 season ended early because of COVID, she led her teammates to a 22-win season, the Bearcats' biggest success since joining Division I in 2001. Off the court, Moon also found success as a marketing major at the School of Management, a path inspired by her experience as a top-tier athlete. She told Chris Coker, "I saw the ways in which they were marketing me and other players on the team, especially once I started to become the face of the program." And she said, "I wanted to understand how they were using me or players on other sports teams to drive attendance and increase awareness." That's interesting. I'm learning this for the first time. I had not seen this story before, and so I didn't know, or if I knew, I forgot a lot of her background. It says Moon grew up in Michigan and Chicago, but her father is a Queens native, so when schools recruited her for a basketball scholarship, and Binghamton was among them, she had some familiarity with the Ivy of the SUNYs. And, well, you could read the rest of the story. Looks like a nice profile. It was written by Chris Coker. Chris Coker, legendary journalist. Morning, Chris. I hope you're listening. Or if you know Chris, tell Chris Coker that Bob Joseph mentioned him and found one of his stories going back about 3.5 years ago about Kai Moon. Yeah, sometimes we lose track of people, whether it's Binghamton University athletes or others who have been involved in local sports. So sometimes it's nice to follow up and see what's going on. It's 9:31. You're listening to News Radio, WNBF and WNBF.com. Your quiet island. Joined now by Naima Cragen. Good morning.
Good morning. I love that music.
Wasn't that nice?
An autumn place. Good call.
Yeah, you can't beat Percy Faith.
No, not at all.
Well, thanks for joining us this morning. I know it's going to be a busy weekend in Johnson City.
It is. We have a fabulous concert Saturday night, and we're just so blessed to be able to have these artists. One of the things that I do all year is, contact these artists and agents and see when they're touring and passing through. And that's the way that we get these high quality people at a lower price, so that we can then, keep the ticket price low. So this group, American Patchwork, has some concerts in the Northeast. And so we were able to book them. And it's just wonderful American music. And except it's what's neat about it is it's presented in a way with it's a very diverse group. So they're from different ethnicities. They bring a jazz element. They bring some of the flavor of where they're from, the Indian singer. she brings that influence to it. And they are all multiple award-winning artists. So it is, and also the guitarist also sings. And it's all American music, but with, a little spice. And we're just blessed to be able to have them Saturday night. I'm very excited. American Patchwork Quartet. Yeah.
Yeah, and the strange thing is, when I was driving in here to the station, of course, usually, as you know, I listen to WNBF 24/7, but every once in a while, I need to monitor what else is going on around here. And it just so happened when I momentarily changed the dial to monitor what else is going on local radio, I happened to hear a wonderful interview with...
Oh, good.
Yeah. Did you hear that interview?
No, I didn't. I was getting
you missed it. And I'm thinking, and it was so well produced, I'm thinking, gee, I wish I could do a radio segment, with that kind of professionalism. And I thought, well, maybe if I contact the people at Public Media, they could show me how it's done. Because it was such a well-produced segment with some music and then with the interview, obviously a pre-recorded interview. And I'm thinking, gee, I can only aspire to that kind of greatness. But I was fascinated by the segment. And I remember thinking, oh, that's right. It's coming up tomorrow evening in Johnson City. So that's great.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing them. They come in and they do sound check and a little rehearsal and all of that. So we're lucky. We get to spend like the whole day with them.
Oh my!
And people always fall in love with our community. So that's the other thing. We're bringing people in that really get excited about the history. They all want to know about the firehouse. Then they want to know about EJ, and they want to know about how did the community start. And it's just it's always just a really nice situation where we're sharing our talents and and our people and our history and legacy, and then they do the same back. So it's really cool. And speaking of history and things like that, I'm glad we're talking this morning because we have our Ghost Light adventure coming up on October 4th. That fills up, so that's about 40 people. And we have a paranormal society group that brings in machinery and things like that, investigative machinery. And so you can talk to the spirits in the Goodwill Theater. So it's a 2-hour situation. So, and you should probably bring a coat because there is no heating inside the Goodwill Theater. But people really enjoy it. And you can ask these spirits questions. And we definitely have some ghosts in there. And they are definitely happy, nice ghosts.
I was going to say, are they friendly ghosts or are they mean-spirited ghosts that don't like to interact with people?
Well, apparently they do like to interact. And they have been asked if they're happy about us, bringing people into the building and redoing the building and stabilizing it. And their answer is in the affirmative. So that's kind of fun. So that's our Ghost Light adventure. Starts around 5:30. And you can go to our website, and there's links to all of the artists and groups and more explanation. And that can help you decide what you want to attend. So that's October 4th. And then on the 18th, we're bringing in a magician, Denny Corby, who is highly recommended by Alex Boyce. And so that's going to be really fun magic and comedy. And you can see a little bit more about him, and I'll link his website and see if he's your cup of tea.
Oh, so and the photograph on your website is great. I'm looking at the expression. I can do the expression, but he has the added benefit of having a nice full head of hair, which, I may have had that some years ago, but no longer. But just the expression, that's a great photo for a magician. And you could tell just from the image that's posted on your website that Magic with Denny Corby is going to be a fun time.
It is. Yeah, I always like it when artists have good promotional material. It's very, very helpful. And then we move into our Fall Frolic fundraiser. We did this last year, and people really liked it, where it's dinner and a show in the firehouse. So this year it's going to be a buffet by Food and Fire, because people have missed Food and Fire being at the at the Firehouse. Not everything is going to be barbecue. There'll be salads and some vegetarian entrees and things like that. But so that is $75, but you do get dinner and the show and complimentary punch and, wine and soda, and then it's cash bar for the wine and beer. So that features the artists that are called Carol's Kings. And what that is three young men who sing all the music of Carole King. So it's a little bit different spin on the music of Carole King, which is music I grew up with. So that lets you know how old I am. But her music was just so phenomenal, and they give it, a little bit of a 21st century spin on it, and they have wonderful harmonies, and we're really looking forward to that. So I think that'll be really great. You can settle in with a nice meal and have a really full evening in the Firehouse. It's a little bit of a fundraiser. As I say, it's $75 a person. But as I say, you get a full meal and desserts and then a really good show. So we're looking forward to having a nice crowd for that. And then on the 21st, our Enjoy Jazz is the Paul Jacob Merrill Jazz Quintet. Our last jazz, the Afro-Caribbean, oh, my God, they just knocked it out of the park. So we're really looking forward to this group because Mike does such a good job, Mike Carbone, of finding these people from around the community, all around New York State and the Northeast. He brings in these great artists, and we are so blessed, to have him willing to do that for us. So he finds all these different genres and different types of jazz and different personalities, and it's really fun, the people that he brings in, because people you wouldn't be able to see otherwise. You'd have to kind of ferret them out yourself and drive around, to find them. So we're very excited about this next one. So, yeah, and you can get this Dalmatian deal, a jazz pass, so you save money, and you can also do a mix and match of comedy and jazz or comedy and music. Because, we have a lot of music coming in this year, including a Marvin Gaye tribute, which I think is going to be very well attended.
Excellent. Well, it's going to be a fun and busy fall, obviously, in Johnson City, and I think it's great. Naima Krajan, thanks for giving us a preview. I'm especially intrigued about tomorrow night's show, especially after hearing that very well-produced interview by an expert on Binghamton's public media. I mean, come on. I wish I could do that. I'm going to ask her if she could give me some pointers, because I really enjoyed that segment, and I just thought, oh, well, she actually had a chance to interview one of the performers, and it was so well done. It was fascinating.
Well, we'll hook you up. We'll try to hook you up with Carole Kings. And,
yes.
You can, if you need technology advice, you can always ask it.
Well, maybe I could, if I'm nice to some of my colleagues, maybe they'll help me. It's like, okay, Bob, but, this is the only time, But I did look up the Carol's Kings website, and that website looks fascinating, too. So at some point when we get closer to their scheduled show, perhaps we'll have an opportunity to chat with one of the members of Carol's Kings.
Oh, that'd be great. I think you'd really enjoy it. Yes, so go to firehousestage.org, and you guys can link up to anything and take a look at the artists that are coming and buy a ticket.
All right, Naima Krajan, hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
It's 9:45, WNBF, live and local. Some people say, well, Raj, why don't you tape all your interviews? And it's like, I don't know how to use the recorder. I mean, now that Radio Shack is closed, where could you get professional advice in operating these inexpensive, realistic cassette recorders? You see what I'm saying? 607-772-1290. Bob Joseph, live, Binghamton Now. 9:48, news time, talk time, happy time for you here at the station that is glad to serve you. 607-772-1290. The weather forecast. Yes, let's... I wish we had a weather deck. I don't know where we would put it. My weather deck, in my dreams, my weather deck would be up at the top of our beautiful Binghamton Now Tower. So right at the top, so we could be broadcasting not just the program, but also accurate weather forecasts every 10 minutes on the 8s, and we would be high above the traffic and the mayhem. But it's the weather deck of my imagination. All right, here we go. The forecast, and this is from the National Weather Service. Mostly cloudy today, 75. Cloudy tonight, a slight chance of showers, 61. Mostly cloudy tomorrow, a chance of showers, 73. Mostly cloudy Sunday with a chance of showers in the morning, 70. Right now, 60 at WNBF at 16 Celsius. Air quality is just fantastic. Air quality index now is 28. Oh, here's an update from our correspondents in the villages in Florida. We do have a big, dedicated, loyal audience at the villages in Florida. We are happy to serve the villages in Florida. According to correspondents, rain started here about 7 p.m., and so they received about 2 inches of rain, some winds and gusts. Not a branch down anywhere near our place. I'm sure there are palm fronds down up north from the bigger trees, but pretty much a non-event for most everyone here in the villages. Oh, and then the correspondent sent an image. We are the blue dots. The storm literally skirted us. We had 30-mile-per-hour winds with a 60-mile-per-hour gust, 2 to 3 inches of rain, which is just normal for any storm that rolls through here. Well, thank you to our Bureau in the Villages, WNBF, serving Binghamton and the villages. Well, not just the villages in Florida, but also Endicott and Johnson City. It's 9:51. WNBF, back to the phones. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Well, good morning, Bob. Happy TGIF, and I thank you for taking my call. This is Michael from Windsor. How are you?
Good, Michael. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, you're very welcome. You hit on the Malomars. I'm right there with you, brother. I'll tell you. They are one of the best cookies, and I won't tell you what store to go to, but it begins with a W. If you go online, you can get 3 packages for like $13, and if you order three packages, it's free shipping delivered right to your door.
Yep. I think it's a good value. And the one thing I'll say about Malomars, the folks that have been producing Malomars all these years seem to always have consistent quality. The only thing I noticed that's different this year is the tray, the plastic tray. They switched to a different kind of tray.
I noticed that too.
Yeah.
I agree.
But other than that, everything seemed exactly the same. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, they taste the same. I'm right there with you. The other cookie I want to bring up: have you tried the Oreo Coca-Cola cookie yet?
No, I haven't. But someone who works here, I think, had mentioned that. I can't. She mentioned some Oreo special variety, and
correct.
I can't remember if that was the one. She may have mentioned a different one, but I have to try that. It sounds like it's right up my alley.
It's a special edition. Believe it or not, after my first package, I ordered a dozen online. I got them in the freezer. They are phenomenal. They're made in New Jersey. It's not the other company, Nabisco. This one's, I don't know what it was. It begins with an M, but they're out of New Jersey. And when you bite into one of these, it's like drinking a Coke, and then you get these pop things in your mouth.
Oh, really? They put those little things like, what were those candies, those little Pop Rocks that they used to have? They used to have a thing, candy when I was a kid, and they were like these little pieces, and they were coated with carbon dioxide. And they were artificially flavored with the very best artificial flavors and artificial colors to ensure health problems for your kids for decades to come. So,
Exactly.
but they were fun. It was sweet goodness, and you would put these Pop Rocks in your mouth, and they would kind of, because of the carbon dioxide coating, they would sort of tingle and sort of pop on your tongue.
They came in a little set, didn't they?
Like a little packet, kind of like the little packets they used to have for Kool-Aid.
Yes, a little packet. But if you bite into one of these cookies, you will be amazed. And my wife loves them. I love them. I'm bringing them to the park on Sunday, which is my next point, by the way.
Oh.
Harper and Stance Music Fest.
That's right. It's coming up this Sunday.
And it's supposed to be nice weather, a chance maybe of a shower, but you know what? I don't think it's going to happen. The last one was canceled in August. We showed up, and then it was canceled because it did rain pretty bad. But this one, in dedication to her and her family, I think it's a wonderful event. Tell everyone bring a lawn chair and your dancing shoes, because I think it's going to be a great time, and I'm going to be there with my Oreos.
Yes. All right. Well, maybe I'll stop by. I hadn't finalized my Sunday plans, and that's one event, even though it's been around for a long time. I just have never been there, so maybe I'll try to enjoy that. I've enjoyed the summer so far with Porch Fest and with Blues on the Bridge, so maybe I'll be able to make it to Recreation Park on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed you at Porch Fest. I was there. That Ukraine brass band was phenomenal.
Oh, it was so good. I got such a kick out of it. Now, the audio was a little problematic, but they overcame some of the audio glitches, and that music it just meant so much to me, just musically, and also just what I was thinking about the people of Ukraine.
I agree. I mean, me being a trumpet player, I relate to that. But yeah,
well, I used to play the trumpet too until I got demoted. They said in the Union Endicott band, they had that particular year when I started, they had too many trumpets, and I certainly wasn't in the top tier. So they said, we've got some great people who play the trumpet, and we really have a need for somebody to play the tuba. So I switched over to tuba, which was fun too. Wow. Actually, it was, as much as I enjoyed the short time I played trumpet, I actually had more fun with the tuba.
Was it tuba or a sousaphone? Well,
both. I mean, when we were out with the marching band, it was sousaphone. We did, of course, some of playing at football games, of course, and my highlight for the time I was in the marching band was when we went, it was almost, believe it or not, 50 years ago, to the Orange Bowl parade in Miami. It was for I think it was New Year's Eve. I remember. Yeah, going from 1974 into 1975, so we're coming up on the 50th anniversary of that, and we all had a good time. It was an intriguing concept. I'm not sure that this kind of concept would fly today, but instead of spending lots of money to take a flight down from Binghamton to Miami, we went to Florida by bus, and I'll tell you, I got all the bus riding I ever needed in that trek by Greyhound. Nothing really bad. It's just travel by bus, and it's a long time to be cooped up in a bus. Ride. But on the other hand, we were high school students, so we had a great time.
So you usually do on a bus as a marching band, a passer band. You get on a bus together, you're going to have a great time.
It was fun. The chaperones, the driver. Or drivers. I can't remember how many buses we needed, but it was a good time. I mean,
That's great.
today, if I had to go from Endicott to Miami today, I doubt that I would take the Greyhound, but who knows?
I hear you there.
Anyway, thanks for your call.
I don't want to hold you up. I thank you for taking my call. You enjoy the weekend, and I'll bring a package of Oreos with me on Sunday and look for you.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out. Thank you.
All right, Bob, you take care.
It's 9:59. This is Bob Joseph. Yeah, I think now I have figured out what to do Sunday. Now I have to figure out what exactly I need to do during the day tomorrow. Maybe go up to Round Top. I love that Round Top in Endicott. I mean, what's not to love? You know, the view. Now you can see miles and miles. And sometimes, I mean, it's fun. It's fun to go into the Round Top area, which is, by the way, in the town of Union. You may have heard Round Top is actually in the town of Union, although it's owned by the village of Endicott and operated by Broome County. But I got to tell you, that town of Union is really, it's one of America's best towns. You know, Owego may have claimed to have been the coolest small town, but in my personal experience, the town of Union is even cooler. Of course, now I've got everybody in Owego mad at me. They're going to send me stale strawberries, right? Yeah, that's okay. We'll refuse them. Just order the front desk. Any stale strawberries from Owego, send them back. 10 o'clock, WNBF Bank joined in the studio by the town of Union supervisor, Robert Mack. Welcome back.
Great to be here, Bob. It was an enjoyable morning.
So what's the biggest issue now facing the town of Union? What are the people in the town talking about?
Well, we got a lot of infrastructure projects going. We're paving, just today, I think we're paving 3 or 4 streets. We have Hooper Road dug up in spots because we're putting in new sewer lines, and we have new pumping stations going throughout the town. Right now, I counted them up the other day. We have just under 40 major infrastructure projects going at the same time in the town. They're either in the design phase, the construction phase. It's the money that we were given by the federal government called the ARPA money. It was about $31.4 million. And that money needs to be completely committed by December 31st this year. That means the project has to be on the books, pretty much shovel ready. We do have 2 more years after the first of the year to finish those projects. Otherwise, we got to send that money back to the federal government. So we're really scrambling to get all of these projects on the table, make sure that that money is all allocated so we don't have to give any back. We're doing it's coming along great. We're really, really pleased with what we have.
So of that approximately $31.5 million, how much is left to be officially allocated? Is there much that hasn't been committed?
No, it's pretty much completely committed now unless a project falls through. We did split it up. We put $20 million into pure infrastructure, and then we put about $10 million into other community projects, and there was a bunch of them. I mean,
including Oakdale Commons.
Oakdale Commons.
Because Oakdale Commons received some ARPA money from the town and Broome County.
Yeah, quite a bit to get that place back in shape. They needed all new infrastructure underneath the mall, sewers, water lines, and we helped them do all that with that ARPA money, along with a lot of other nonprofit projects. The Family Center in Endicott, the old Boys and Girls Club, we helped them with a whole new HVAC system. Mothers and Babies, we actually bought half their building for them. On
Grand Avenue.
On Grand Ave,
right.
Yeah. We were so happy to be able to get them centralized into the Binghamton area. So we were happy to help with that project. And many, many others. There was quite a few recipients of those projects.
And by the way, speaking of Grand Avenue, we just had a Mothers and Babies representative in earlier this week because they have a special program going on or a special event happening tomorrow at their site at Grand Avenue. Right across the street, and this is not a Town of Union project per se, but it's in the town, and it's something that has been on the drawing boards for quite a while, is an apartment complex, mixed-use complex,
That's
72
right.
apartments, and I think maybe 6,200 square feet of commercial space, and I believe they're going to put in a child care
they're supposed to be.
service in there. And so that project by Regan Development from Westchester County is now getting underway. I was pleasantly surprised about a week ago when somebody said, hey, get over there.
They're working on the site.
The guys from Gorick Construction were doing some of the preliminary work as part of the state's brownfield phase. And that's one thing that also people don't understand when the state's involved, and you can attest to this as a town supervisor. No matter what the program, could be brownfield program or anything else, if the state's involved, you better do everything exactly according to the directives. Dot the I's, cross the T's, because if any mistake is made in the process, that could be potentially time-consuming and expensive.
Yeah, when the DEC or the EPA, for that matter, depending on the size of the site, is involved, you definitely got to dot the I's and cross the T's. There are no greater regulations than when you're dealing with both the state and federal government on projects.
Yes, and I'm sure some communities have learned some painful lessons of what happens if you don't ask ahead of time. So is this how it should be done? Yes, and then double check or triple check, because if you find out after the fact, from everything I've been told, state and federal officials have no qualms about saying, well, there were 75 steps and you did 74 of them exactly right. But this one here in the middle, for some reason you omitted it, or you did it, you put in a paper upside down, and that could spell a problem. Well,
that's federal red tape. I mean, we've heard about it forever, and we know what that's all about. We do an awful lot with what's called CDBG in the town, which is Community Development Block Grants issued through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. In fact, we just had a visit from them last week to the town, and I'm very proud to say they gave us some wonderful grades on our projects, and they complimented us on running one of the most organized programs they've seen in the state. Big shout out to my team up there, Connor Johns and Chris. Oh my gosh, I just drew a blank. And my planning department up there, Chris Kyler. Thank you. I was so proud to see these guys get recognized by HUD. And HUD actually just gave us a brand new program. They asked us to take the program on, which is kind of unheard of. The only other town in the whole area that has it is Binghamton, and it's a housing improvement plan. It's about a $365,000 grant annually, not just one. Every single year, we're eligible for it now. And it's going to help us refurbish a lot of downtrodden properties in the town, mainly aimed at elderly and low-income folks who can't afford to fix up their properties. But more to follow on that, and you can go to the town website to get information on how to see if you might be eligible for that program.
10:17. We're talking about the town of Union this hour with the town supervisor, Rob Mack. Well, speaking of state and federal agencies getting involved, they have been involved for a long time, and they will continue to be involved in the iconic Gowdy Station. The only thing missing from there is I can imagine a dancing crew called the Dancing Ready Kilowatts, dancing around.
Remember Mr. Kilowatt?
We do.
Yep.
We do. There was a dark day in Vestal when NYSEG ordered his image taken down off the side of that building.
I hope somebody has that and it's been rescued. Do you have any idea whether dismantled or?
I say super shredder.
Okay.
Just a guess. Super shredder.
You might be right.
Or something similar.
We didn't cherish history in the 60s and 70s, did we?
We didn't appreciate what we had.
We did not.
But
Gowdy Station. Yeah. Back to Gowdy.
Yes.
I have been in contact with Mr. Schumer's office, and they have assured me that it is very high on the radar, and that they are keeping their eyes on trying to get that site moving. Again, the biggest problem we have with that site is ownership. It is still privately owned, and we need to push ownership into doing something themselves, and hopefully with assistance from the government, both the federal and state government, to help get that site dismantled, cleaned up, and possibly set for some type of redevelopment.
Because there still is lingering contamination from all the decades that it was used as a coal-fired generating plant. I mean, it was used for nearly a century by NYSEG.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. It's got to go extremely deep. It's not just surface contamination that they can scrape up and go from there. One other thing, too, I had a meeting at NYSEG a couple of weeks ago that was interesting. There's very little infrastructure left on that property, and what is there is going to be removed. And NYSEG is actually going to build a new transformer site across the river at the end of Commerce Road in Vestal. So directly across the river from the old Gowdy Station, there will be a new site being built by NYSEG. And when that site is finished, the only thing going through Gowdy Station will be some high tension lines or high power lines. And that's it. There won't be anything left there as far as any switching, any type of relays. So that's something that's interesting there. The other thing NYSEG told us about the town of Union is up on the top of Reynolds Road is a very large NYSEG substation. It's the substation that supplies our entire area. They're actually developing a site right next door to the current substation. They're going to start building it, and when it's completely up and ready to go, they will dismantle and get rid of the old substation up on top of Robinson Hill Road and Reynolds Road. It's so needed for this area. You know, they talk about solar and wind and all these other alternate forms of power. The problem right now is we don't have enough power. I was so shocked to hear that Broome County, the bus garage off of Old Vestal Road, does not have enough electricity to charge a full fleet of electric buses. And it is going to be a couple years probably before NYSEG can supply them with enough energy to charge electric buses. I couldn't believe it. So I literally said to the county, what are you going to do in the meantime if you keep buying these electric buses and not hybrids, which are made in the town of Union, by the way, at BAE? And they told me they were going to run generators to charge electric buses.
It defeats the whole purpose.
Oh my gosh!
When you mentioned that concept to me a few days ago, I thought, well, what is wrong with this picture? I mean, I understand. Trust me, I understand why people are excited and also striving for
green
a transition.
Energy. Yep.
Because at some point the transition's needed. The question is about the mandates that are coming, especially from the state. Are they attainable? I mean, whether it's for, say, municipal bus fleets, school district bus fleets. My question, and we talked a bit about this, is not just lack of enough energy for the grid, but a lack of billions of dollars for the vehicles, because electric vehicles are more expensive than the traditional buses, but also for the equipment that'll be needed for charging. I mean, it just seems that these mandates from Albany are totally unrealistic.
Yeah, and this is nothing against the county. The county is under mandate, and so are these school districts from New York State, Kathy Hochul's office, to go all electric by certain dates. Johnson City Schools, Mayor Marty Maney was talking to us a couple weeks ago at the same meeting, that last winter, their experimental battery-operated school bus was getting 2 hours before it needed to be recharged. You know the hills in Johnson City, and climbing those hills up to those schools in Johnson City can be pretty taxing on a vehicle. And they do not have good enough electric vehicles to handle that load. 2 hours a day in the winter. What good is a school bus that can only do 2 hours?
Imagine on a bitterly cold February day.
Yeah.
So the air temperature is 5 degrees and the wind chill's minus 25, and yet schools are open, and then they're trying to get children up to the middle school or the high school up on Reynolds Road. You can see the bus conking out at about the halfway point.
Yeah. Well, I really think the state has to back off, and they really, really got to rethink going towards hybrids. Hybrids at least charge themselves. You don't need a lot of infrastructure. You're reducing your carbon load by at least 50% with hybrids. And again, BAE, right on the railroad tracks.
Hayes Avenue
is building them, or at least the power plants.
Yep. The hybrid drive.
The hybrid drives, and they're successful. They're proven. They work. All electric in New York State, I don't see it happening until we build the infrastructure.
Or maybe there'll be a miraculous breakthrough over at the new center in Johnson City, or maybe over there at the Gigafactory on Clark Street in Endicott, or just off Watson Boulevard. As soon as they start churning out thousands and thousands of batteries a day, that could be the first step in the solution to all of the world's problems.
I'm anxiously waiting to see.
I'll be there. With my camera. I want to take pictures and video if they let me. All the thousands of batteries emerging, being shipped to grateful New York communities and school districts. It's 10:25 here at News Radio, WNBF. So the Binghamton Metropolitan Transportation Study, BMTS,
yes,
which sets basic local transportation policy. Is BMTS going to take any action regarding the recommendations or the mandates that the state is saying that have to be met in a few years?
Well, we do have on October 3rd, we have a special meeting of the BMTS to vote on an initiative for Broome County to get 7 more electric buses on I believe I'm not sure if it's a federal or state grant. So we are going to be discussing it on, as I said, October 3rd, and I look forward to lively discussion. They are supposed to be bringing in some experts to try and educate us, and then we will be voting afterwards whether or not we're going to recommend that happen. I don't want to tip any cards right now, but right now I have an opinion or two, and I'll wait to see if they can convince me another way.
Well, stay tuned.
Yes.
You never know. See, a listener who knows a thing or two about a thing or two just wrote about battery powered buses, and he said, in his view, and again, he's an expert on so many things. So he said for buses especially, in his opinion, New York should have looked at the potential for hydrogen fuel cells instead. I mean, and that is also an emerging technology. Yeah. I know here in Endicott and Broome County, we have, over the last several years, been almost laser focused on lithium-ion batteries. But the fact is, research continues on other options too.
Yeah, and it's a coming technology, and someday it may be the cleanest technology we have for transportation, but it's not there yet. Again, I think Union Endicott Schools told me that every bus they buy starting in 2027 has to be electric. That's only 2 years away, and the technology again isn't ready for it.
Oh well, I'm sure all this will be solved someday. By the way, one thing that's fascinating to me about hydrogen fuel, and you don't hear much about this, apparently there is one place in Endicott where you can get your hydrogen fuel. They don't talk about it. I don't know why it's, well, maybe because there's not a big demand for it, but you look on the map and there it is. It's like one of these days I'm going to stop by and
get some. What do you carry it in, Bob? I don't know.
That's a really good thing. But, if you look at the U.S. hydrogen fuel map, there it is in Endicott. And it's like, I've been by there before, but it must be they don't want much publicity. But let's see.
Where is it? I have no idea about this. I've never even heard of it.
Oh, it's related to BAE Systems. So,
it is? Yeah. Okay.
So maybe I'll call my friend at BAE, no, actually friends, and they can direct me, and then tomorrow I can go take pictures of their...
Well, get a little jar for me if you go.
A little sample.
I just like to see what it's like.
Hydrogen fuel samples.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I'll sell them on eBay.
I'll just put it on my desk at the town and...
Sure.
Next
to the burning cell phone.
Next to the burning cell phone.
By the way, fortunately, that all turned out well. I mean,
Yes,
that was
did.
one of the more unusual stories that I wound up reporting. It was, I think, about 3 weeks ago.
2 or 3 weeks
Oh,
ago,
on a Friday, no
Yeah.
less. You don't expect cell phones to start burning in the town of Union offices on a Friday, but that's
It
what
did.
happened. Yeah. Well, nobody was hurt.
And I will tell you, it was a little scary.
Well, tell me about, because nobody seems to have gotten any good pictures or video of this in action, but you told me as that little cell phone was burning, it kind of was melting or acting like one of those snakes we
Yes.
had when we were kids.
It was growing. It had probably grown 4 or 5 times in size. We had a fella come into the town, and he had asked one of our clerks for a paperclip. Now, normally the town can afford to give away a paperclip, so we did give him a paperclip. He then took the paperclip and started to put it into the port on his phone. We're not quite sure exactly what he was trying to do, but the phone literally started smoking, burning, and sparking all over. The phone was dropped down to the counter in our clerk's office, and some of the most black, toxic smoke I had ever smelled started rushing through the building. And the phone itself on this counter was growing like those carbon snakes we had when we were kids. We would light them, and you would get a pile of soot or carbon at the end, and that's what it looked like. But the heat that phone was generating was really something to see. I can see where the concern is about lithium-ion battery storage and what must happen when one of these things light up. Your home would be gone in a heartbeat, because I never saw such a hot, burning flame and such a small little battery look like, cause that much smoke. And it did not do much damage because we were able to get it out of the building. But it was really frightening.
Well, hopefully the Endicott Fire Department and
Endwell came.
No, I'm talking.
Oh.
Yes. Well, fortunately, yes. I'm looking ahead to the big gigafactory when they start churning out thousands, if not millions, of batteries a month. And then if there's some kind of problem, I hope not just the Endicott Fire Department, but probably neighboring departments, Endwell, Vestal, Union Center, Binghamton, because if there's a fire at the gigafactory with all these batteries, all I'm saying is I think it would be a case all hands. Let's try to get as many fire departments and emergency personnel
up to speed.
Yeah. Maybe call from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut. I don't know. Of course, now it sounds like it's fear-mongering, but no, we're just concerned about public safety.
Well, we're working on a battery storage plan at the town. We haven't ratified it yet because we're still trying to get good information on the type of enclosures and the type of things you can do to help mitigate battery storage and make it safe for both homeowners. Well, it really, our code doesn't affect homeowners. We're looking at more of the larger users because that's where the big danger is. But we're still learning about battery storage, and we hope to have a law on the books before the end of the year that is updated and current with the standards that are being recommended for battery storage in the town.
Yeah, just like there are certain standards for gasoline storage or whatever. I mean,
or hydrogen.
Or hydrogen, yes, absolutely. So yeah, with any energy source, there are always potential downsides. Heck, remember the glory days of Gowdy? There I go again, talking about Gowdy with the coal, those smokestacks spewing tons and tons of delicious and healthy soot into the air every day. And so people in Johnson City and Westover and wherever the wind took that soot would be able to every day enjoy a good, healthy dose of carcinogenic soot.
That's why the Triple Cities is the asthma capital of the world.
There you go. We're proud. Asthma and carousels. It's 10:33. WNBF Live. I'm Bob Joseph. We're talking with Town of Union Supervisor Rob Mack on Binghamton Now. So let's see. Let's talk about some other projects in the town. Well, we spent some time about Gowdy Station, which is right on the border with the village of Johnson City. one thing we didn't mention, there was yet another fire at the site, I believe this week, or was it late last week?
I think it's been about 2 weeks now, Bob, and time flies.
It's hard to keep track
Yes,
of how
it
many
is.
fires, and let's face it, the long closed plant, the infrastructure just doesn't catch on fire. This is trespassers, people apparently intent on getting metal for scrap.
Right. I didn't get an official report, but the initial report was some scrappers had gotten inside the building, which all the things you try to do to keep people out doesn't last forever. And they started a fire to burn insulation off some of the pipes. Now that insulation is asbestos and they're just not very bright when it comes to what they're doing, but they're desperate for money, and they start fires to burn insulation off of the pipes, and then they cut the pipes out and haul them off to scrap yards. So another reason why we're hoping we can get someplace on getting that place taken down before somebody gets killed in there or something really bad happens in there.
Adjacent to that, 600 Main Street, which had been, for many years, used by BAE Systems until suddenly in early September of 2011, it was decommissioned by Mother Nature with millions of gallons of water flooding in. So fortunately, enough federal money was secured to eventually demolish the flood-damaged building there. I think it was 600,000 square feet.
It was a huge building.
Massive. Yeah. So the next phase for the next chapter for that site will involve elevating a portion of it. Where do things stand with that project to raise part of the site there in Westover?
I haven't been given any dates. As you know, we're going to raise at least 12 acres of the 27, and it has to be raised approximately 8 feet. And then we're going to look for proposals for development. We've talked about housing. We've talked about some office space. We've talked about several. They figure it can handle about 200,000 square feet of property or buildings, maybe 250s and 100, something like that. 2 or 3 separate buildings there could work. But we haven't really seen a rock solid proposal yet. I do believe the New York State FAST grant that they were awarded, they do plan on starting to work on the site to get it shovel ready. I haven't talked to Stacy Duncan lately about a date on that. Stacy actually just started a new program where once a month she's going to be briefing local government leaders and local leaders on projects that the IDA may be involved in. And the very first meeting starts, I think, Monday. I think our meeting is Monday. And we're going to have one once a month where we'll be getting a little better information from the IDA on projects.
Do you think that in some ways is in response to what's been going on with the corporate park proposal that includes some property in the town of Union and some other property in the town of Maine?
Yes, I do. They are. I went to a meeting about a month ago at Maine Endwell School where the IDA presented information on this corporate project up there on top of the county. And still a lot of unanswered questions. They're really just into the scoping process and the SECRA process. So there's just not good information coming out of the IDA right now about that project. So I'm hoping these monthly meetings are going to be starting to brief us and bring us leaders up to speed with what the real plans are and what the thoughts are, whether it's ever going to be a viable project or not.
It's 10:40 at WNBF Friday morning. Still a few other things to talk about regarding the town of Union. It's coming straight up here on WNBF and WNBF.com. Continuing our conversation about the town of Union with the town supervisor, Rob Mack. The old IBM Country Club property. Still a lot of nothing going on, and I thought by now the 72 apartment complex that was touted by Conifer and their partners. I thought that would be nearing completion. Obviously, they had funding issues. They weren't able to get the assistance they need from New York State. So I believe, though, the clock is ticking. I believe if something isn't acted on, if they don't act on something maybe by the end of this year, that it's possible that the future of that site could be re-examined. Is that true, that there might be other options explored instead of the apartment complex? Is that's something that people are talking about?
Well, yes, the original plan was to build a low to moderate income housing project there. And the application did not get approved at New York State. In fact, the application or that money, the approval went to the site on Hooper Road, where they're going to build another over 55 housing project just below the Marion Apartments. And that will be managed by the SEP organization, which handles a lot of other properties in the town, including some of the old schools that they've refurbished, and do a really nice job at that type of housing. So I understand that the original contract that Conifer had was to expire on December 31st. But Stacy Duncan told me recently that they were going to give a 6-month extension on that contract to allow Conifer to see if their application, this next round, which just was submitted a week ago, would get approved. The approval on those we don't get notified of the approval until about May, so we really won't know until the spring whether or not that project gets approved by New York State. I think if that does not get approved, my hopes is it goes back to the drawing board. I wasn't in office when that project was approved, and I'm just not so sure in my heart it's a great place for that type of housing. There's no sidewalks there. There's no, the road has a lot of traffic. It's very narrow. I have a lot of concerns about young families being there and kids on bicycles trying to get to the new Dick's at the mall, and trying to get any place without the infrastructure there to support it. I know the county has talked about trying to put in some sidewalks and things, but there's a lot of issues with that site, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens.
1046 at WNBF. You mentioned the apartment project on Hooper Road next to the Marion Apartments, and this has been discussed for the last few years, and I know it is moving forward. That project is receiving some state support. Have you heard anything new about a timeline when some activity could start at that site?
I thought we were going to see something by the fall. In fact, I was all excited. One day, I called my commissioner of public works and I said, hey, I see a bunch of construction equipment down on that site. They're getting started. And he goes, nah, they're down there rebuilding the bridge on Hooper Road. So my excitement got quashed pretty quickly that that project was getting started. Again, by Monday, when we have our meeting with the IDA, and I did just meet with John Bernardo the other day, and I should have asked, but we hope that project's getting started very soon. It's going to be a good project for the community.
And in many ways similar to the neighboring building that's been there for many years.
Yes. And the schools, if you look at Nichols Notch and the Johnson City School, I forget the name of it right now, the different schools that SEP has.
Oh, on Harry L. Drive.
Harry L. Drive, yes.
Yeah.
The different schools that they've refurbished into over 55 housing, they're just beautiful. They're managed well. They're great buildings. We were just, we had a big press conference at SEP on Wednesday, where they thanked the town of Union for making a lot of these good projects happen, because we support them wholeheartedly. We really think they're great projects. And with the graying of Broome County, we need it. We need good handicap accessible and housing that offers some assistance to folks to keep them out of nursing homes and to let them live independently.
Over the last few days, there's been just a sudden groundswell of excitement because of Hobby Lobby. Everybody says, oh, the Hobby Lobby is coming, and everybody's saying, oh, I know where it'll be. Well, it'll be in Endicott, or it'll be in Johnson City, or I know some other place in the town of Union. So because of all the rampant excitement over yet another business that has a policy of not opening on Sundays, I almost think they ought to have Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A side by side so they both could be open 6 days a week. But anyway, what are you hearing about Hobby Lobby? Obviously, this is a sudden groundswell of excitement. Aside from Chick-fil-A, I've never seen anything quite like it.
I agree 100%. I have been getting phone calls. People on the street stop me. I'm out for a walk. People come off their porches and ask me about it. I am so ignorant. I didn't even know what Hobby Lobby was until a couple weeks ago. And so now I've been educated on it. I suppose I should have known because of their Supreme Court case a few years ago, a while back, and all those things. And I probably did, but I just wasn't familiar with what they sell at those places. Same rumor you're hearing, Bob. We hear they've placed an ad in a local Indeed, I believe it's on, looking for employees. I've been told that could be just a feeler to see if there is a good labor market here that they may be considering coming and hiring a number of people. We are also all kinds of speculation on places they may be looking to go. And I just say that the town of Union would be thrilled to have them. Wherever they decide is a good location for them. I understand they need a little bigger footprint than like a Michael's did, or there was another one over there years ago. I can't remember, on the Parkway.
Yeah.
So they need a pretty large footprint because I guess the stores are pretty big.
Well, as they say, stay tuned. I bet we'll hear something soon enough.
Hopefully so.
1050 at WNBF and WNBF.com. Oh, speaking of things that finally opened, and I think this may have opened since the last time you were here, but our long national nightmare of waiting for the Dunkin' Donuts on Main Street in Westover to open, finally, it ended. This was one of, in my estimation, one of the longest running Dunkin' Donut development projects, because it seemed that, the company that wanted to put the new donut shop at that location on Main Street in Westover next to the Y, I think they had their eyes set on this site for 5 or 6 years, and finally, earlier this month, it opened.
Well, when you have a former site that was a McDonald's, the deeds have restrictions. So like the McDonald's in Endwell that's closed, there's a deed restriction. McDonald's says that can't be sold to anyone that has anything to do with the food business. So it's very, very difficult to sell a former McDonald's site because of that if it was owned by corporate. I understand that it took a long time, and I don't know if it was 10 years or how long it was before that deed restriction was lifted and they were able to put a food-oriented business on that property. Having said that, yes, that was a long wait for a cup of coffee, I will tell you. We had talked about it on the show several times, but it is open. It's a great footprint. The traffic flow in and out is beautiful. You have a traffic light to help you in and out. It's a great Dunkin' Donuts, and happy for the development.
And then a few miles to the west, there we have another abandoned McDonald's property that is owned by corporate. So I don't know who we have to go through, Mayor McCheese or the Hamburglar or someone, but apparently that too is sort of in a state of limbo, because that might be a great place for another food-related establishment, but apparently because McDonald's doesn't like the idea of somebody, of competition, cannibalizing some of their business from other operations. What are you hearing, if anything, about that old McDonald's that sits on the site where Hooper School had been many years ago?
Nothing at all. Again, because of the deed restrictions, and that building is a strange building. It doesn't have a second floor. It looks like it has a second floor because it's a very tall building. I don't know what that building is suited for, if not for food. You and I, our Chick-fil-A dream, we thought that would be a perfect place for it. I even had thought maybe even our union ambulance squad might be able to utilize that property to expand and centralize their garage. A lot of people don't know our union ambulance crew have a small substation in Endicott and a small substation right in Johnson City. And I would like to see a large centrally located station, which they have now, but even larger, to handle their entire operation right there in the heart of Union.
It's 10:53 at WNBF, not far from that location in Endwell. If you go just a few blocks to the south, there have been ongoing issues regarding homeless encampments. And I know from being over there yesterday, I've seen additional no trespassing signs that have been posted along town-owned land, along Argonne Street and River Road. And I think those signs probably went up just in the last couple of months because there have been issues, if not on that specific site, on the other side, just south of Route 17, where at one point perhaps dozens of people had started living, and somebody put up a sign declaring it the Minion Camp, and that several months ago was cleared up shortly before heavy rain came from the river. So what's the status of specifically that property? Have there been any indications of new encampments or potential problems on land that's owned by the town of Union or the state DOT?
I have not seen anything down there other than we have seen some increased activity. I did see a report this week, or I received a report this week, that we had some more down in the Route 17C West Corners Parks.
Or Glendale area,
Park,
across from the old IBM Glendale plant.
And we've been getting the state police down there to, you just can't have that at parks where you have kids playing and people recreation use and walking trails. You just can't have that. I saw the headline this morning with Owego, as you probably spoke about on the show, deeming the camp they had as being unsanitary and breaking all the health codes because they don't have facilities. There's no way to keep them sanitary without sewers and bathroom facilities and all those things. So it's a major problem. Just Sunday, I got a call from someone that right in Highland Park, they found a tent in the woods, and we went down and checked it out. We actually removed it. We don't know if it was kids building a fort, which kids used to do, or whether it was a homeless, the start of the little homeless camp. But we cleaned it out on Monday, and it's an ongoing battle. It's just a battle.
And there continue to be problems with squatters in houses that are vacant.
Yes, we had the Broome County Sheriff's Department come to our town board meeting last week. And it was very interesting. The officer who is in charge of evictions and going after squatters and so forth came and spoke to us. And it was a very enlightening conversation. He was telling us about with the new bail laws that we need to repeal in this state, that they have arrested some people for squatting and trespassing 7 times. And the people are out within 2 hours of being processed for arrest, and they go right back to where they were living. And they go back and rearrest them, and they're back 2 hours later. And can you imagine being arrested 7, 8 times and not even caring about it? Because there's no bail laws. There's no, they can't pay fines. They don't have any money. And there's no consequence. So how can you enforce laws when there's no consequence?
Yeah, it continues to be an ongoing challenge all around our area, actually across the country.
Yep.
Town of Union Supervisor Robert Mack, thanks for joining us this morning. We'll have you back on in a few weeks.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Coming up next, we have the news. ABC with the national and world update, then the local and regional report from WNBF, and then your phone calls. Coming up, I'm Bob Joseph on WNBF. Joined now by Congressman Mark Molinaro, who undoubtedly is out driving his car around someplace in the district. Good morning.
Good morning. I am. And just for the record, I think over the last 2 years, driving in and around the 19th Congressional District, which, by the way, for your listeners should know, I mean, stretches all the way from the Berkshire Mountains, right? So from where New York State meets Massachusetts, through and over the Hudson River, Catskill Mountains, Southern Tier, up to Ithaca. I think I'm probably at 45,000 miles. I think that sounds about right. And I'm happy to do it. I love being out in the community.
All right. Well, as I observed earlier this week in the current commercials, obviously your campaign as one that seems to be in pretty high rotation. Also, your Democratic challenger, Josh Riley, has one that is being seen a lot. In terms of, I almost ran a stopwatch. Who was driving longer in these 30-second spots? Looked to me like Josh Riley may have been driving for about 24 seconds in his spot. And then, of course, he turns around in the back and his son is there telling him, come on, let's stop talking and let's get to the playground. And then your spot, I'm not sure what you were driving, but it's only the last 5 seconds or so. So I thought I detected at least an area of agreement between the two candidates that in upstate New York, we really need to drive a lot.
Well, in fairness, I can't be in the car as long. I have to get out and talk to folks. But I will say, his ad's cute, and I'm sure. Listen, I've had to talk to my kids without them wanting to pay too much attention to the nuance of international and domestic policy.
Well, sure. So most kids, I don't care whether you have a young kid or teenagers. Most kids don't really want to hear about congressional campaign issues, at least not at this stage.
Well, I do have to tell you, though, I have 4 kids. We don't often talk about family. I have 4 children. My oldest, Abigail, lives on the autism spectrum, has a seizure disorder. She's with us all the time. My 15-year-old Jack, he actually does enjoy public policy. Challenges me a lot. He's learning international relations now, I guess international government or international history and social studies. So he's a bright kid who challenges. But my 5 and 7-year-old, they ask the toughest questions. But I will say this, in fairness, in my house, I don't get to see many of the good ads. I only get to see the ones that generally attack me and lie about my record. But Eli takes issue with them, and he just turns off the television.
It's interesting. I brought this up when Josh Riley was here the last time, too. This is turning out to be an incredibly expensive House race. And I see a story just posted yesterday on Politico. It says this battle in upstate New York between you and Josh Riley is now the most expensive House race in the country. And I find that amazing, but maybe I shouldn't be surprised.
I think you should be. I think it's absurd and frankly obscene, but that $35 million, please know that a good bulk of those dollars were spent, frankly, by my opponent and his campaign structure, like month after I took office. I mean, they have been there's been 2 candidates in the entire country, 2 House seats in the entire country that and I'm one of them, where the opposition has been spending on television and digital ads from basically December of 2022 to discredit, in this case, me. And when we started sort of actively the campaign, we were being outspent 5-1 by Josh in his Democratic, apparatus. Yes, admittedly, it's a heated race. I think, frankly, it's because districts like ours usually elect people that are middle of the road, trying to get stuff done, and the wings of the parties don't necessarily embrace that. And frankly, in my case, I'm the second most bipartisan member of Congress and now the 4th most productive member of the House and Senate. 35 pieces of legislation adopted in the House, 11 laws adopted in the House and Senate. At this point, 7 standalone bills. At the end of the day, I suspect that one side thinks that the only way to win is to disparage and to lie about the incumbent. I just don't happen to think it's the best strategy. And I'm happy to talk about any of those issues. I mean, frankly, I just have seen so many, millions of dollars of lies about my record, about my beliefs. And certainly, I think it's best to show up and talk to folks, which is why I get out of that car and talk and meet with tens of thousands of people over these last 2 years.
Yeah, we'll turn to some issues in a moment. One thing in the Politico story that I found interesting, it says Republicans believe Riley may benefit from Kamala Harris subbing for Joe Biden. Now that obviously the presidential campaign is far different than what we expected last spring. So the presidential campaign is far more heated. Everybody is captivated by it. The contest between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And one Republican consultant who's operating a super PAC in this district predicted while Harris may not fare as well as Biden did 4 years ago, that his assessment is she will help boost turnout for Josh Riley. What's your opinion to his assessment?
There's no question that Democrats are more energized about Kamala Harris. I think, though, like she, Josh is going to have to answer questions about the last 4 years, policies that, frankly, have both driven up cost of living, spending without concern, have driven up cost of living. We know this. Upstate New Yorkers pay the highest combined taxes of any people in the country. When I was a county executive, we cut taxes 9 years in a row. I think we provided the largest property tax cut in history. And now, as a member of Congress, my focus has been on trying to drive down energy costs, make it more affordable for rural communities, but also, let's get real for a minute. I mean, the vice president basically used Josh Riley's legal playbook. And keep in mind, I mean, I understand he's originally from the Southern Tier, but for the last 20 years, he's lived and worked in Washington, D.C. as a rising corporate lawyer in the Washington, D.C. Circuit. In fact, he highlighted as a rising star in corporate law. They argued to open the border, mass amnesty, and then with that, we've seen not only 11.5 million people come to this country, but upstate New Yorkers are losing jobs and losing the opportunity to go to work because of policies like that. So, yeah, there's energy, but at the end of the day, there still needs to be some accountability for policies that have taken away American jobs, make it more difficult for folks. I was just out in the Teamster picket line out in Ithaca, New York, because corporations like the ones Josh represented continue to sell out for cheap labor and, frankly, leave our communities. And we've been fighting back against that for years.
So you put out a statement a few days ago suggesting that this is the headline put out by your campaign, that Josh Riley's open border policy is in one way responsible for rising unemployment, not just higher crime, but also even unemployment. Explain what you think and of course people need to know, of course, Josh Riley personally hasn't had any impact on policy because he hasn't been elected to Congress. But
no, Bob, that's not true. Bob, he worked for Senator Al Franken and helped craft a piece of legislation that would provide mass amnesty. He worked.
So you're saying that legislation had Josh Riley's fingerprints on it?
Absolutely, he celebrates having written it as one of his successes. But also, he works for one of the most political corporate law firms in the country. Boy Schiller is filled with political operatives, and when Harvey Weinstein needed a defense counsel to intimidate women that he sexually harassed, it was Boyce Schiller, Josh Riley's law firm. And by the way, the communications team that Josh Riley was hired to lead that was engaged by Weinstein. It was the law firm that Josh worked for that represented Apple in a lawsuit for selling out American workers and instead paying low-income illegal immigrants. And so, no. I mean, Josh has spent more time working in Washington, D.C. than I ever have. I mean, I 20 years working in the halls of Washington, D.C. is his record. I've been there for a year and a half. I've been up in upstate New York trying to fight policies that tax us too much and result in too many of these businesses and these corporations, frankly, leaving. But to the point, what's occurred in these last 4 years, and we've seen this, over time. I'm a victim of IBM's absence. My stepdad was an employee at IBM, one of the first to be laid off. He went back to being a mechanic. I love him for it, great mechanic. But we saw that. We saw when IBM left the devastation And corporations like that, and of course we had Borg Warner just up the road in Ithaca, and they want offshore jobs. And so they're giving friendly tax policy, even by this administration. And then law firms like Josh's represent them in fights to sell out for cheaper labor. And yeah, that results in higher unemployment and more difficult time for upstate New Yorkers going to work. And I get it. I've lived it my whole life. My mom worked cleaning houses for a number of years. We needed food stamps for a few years, for a short time to survive. I know what it's like to work live in a working class farm. I went to work when I was 14 years old. The day I turned 14, I got my working papers. Went to work at a local horse farm, cleaning horse manure. I was often joking. It might have prepared me for cleaning things out in Washington, but also worked at a local pizza joint. My whole childhood was working 3 jobs. We didn't have the benefit of going off to an Ivy League school. I went to a community college locally and served in my community. So, yeah, it does. These policies and the work of high-priced lawyers often lead to, and in this case have led to, the loss of jobs here in upstate New York, and corporations take advantage. I haven't represented a single corporation my whole life. I mean, Josh's law firm in himself has represented massive corporations, Apple, Google, Chevron, and others. This isn't made up. It's his record.
11:22. We're talking with Republican Congressman Mark Molinaro here on WNBF, WNBF.com. Earlier this week, Citizen Action held a protest against what they describe as your anti-abortion policies. In one of their statements, a member said, since you took office, you have voted 13 times against a woman's right to choose. And one of the organizers, a community organizer, said Congressman Molinaro continues to mislead the people of this district from his stance on abortion, like supporting shackling incarcerated women during childbirth to the refusal to consider the Women's Health Protection Act. This statement said your policies, Molinaro's policies, are a slap in the face to the reproductive rights of people in the 19th District.
Yeah, so let me be very candid and clear. Here's my position, and I've upheld it my entire adult life. I believe that when it comes to reproductive health, the decision should be left to a woman and her physician, not Washington, D.C. They are simply lying about my record. I have, and before I came to Congress, led efforts as county executive to expand access to quality health care for women who, no matter the choice they made, working with federal health clinics and other service providers to be sure those in our community had access. I believe now as a member of Congress and have taken votes to support this. I said that I would oppose any effort to ban abortion nationwide, and I've kept that promise. I said that I would oppose any effort by Congress to restrict or infringe itself on the laws and access here in the state of New York, and I've upheld that promise. As a Republican, I was the first and frankly the most vocal to oppose any limitation on access to mifepristone or over-the-counter birth control. By the way, as a member of the New York State Assembly, 15 years ago, I voted to allow for, at the time, over-the-counter and expand access to over-the-counter birth control. And I remain committed to ensuring that women, in particular in upstate New York, I lead the bipartisan effort to expand rural health clinics and federal funding for federal health clinics, because women who in upstate New York, we have accessibility issues, and so we have to be sure there's clear access to quality care and health care. And I lead the bipartisan efforts to expand access to telehealth and telemedicine. All of these things are important for prenatal, neonatal care, and to support women in the choice they make. They're simply lying in order to frighten people. I've upheld my promise to oppose a ban and to continue to support access here in the state of New York as defined by the state of New York. And for me, that's very important.
It's 11:25 at WNBF. We're talking with Congressman Mark Molinaro, a Republican who represents the 19th District. Do you support Donald Trump? in his reelection bid?
I do, and I hope that we can have an economy that opens up job opportunities in upstate New York, gets Americans working in American jobs, and by the way, secures the border and pushes back on the policies that have made our communities less safe. You know, I neglected one thing, Bob. I do want to reference just as a point. Citizen action is not some innocent bystander. Let's be clear. I mean, they're a political arm of Josh Riley's campaign. They're actually hiring and have volunteers door knocking on his behalf. They're not some innocent third party. And it's just this kind of dishonesty that frankly I think people are just fed up with. And that's why, by the way, I get out in the community and listen. And just as a reference, you know, during the last 2 years, I spent a lot of time talking with Republican and Democrat women and families about access to IVF, about access to birth control. And I'm so, I mean, it's emotional and important to hear both the heartache and the interest. And I take that to heart. Those are the kinds of, as a representative, that's what we listen to. When I've been to talk to moms and dads who've lost their children to substance use and overdoses, and it's because of policies, sadly, like the ones we've seen these last 2 years, sanctuary city policy here in the state of New York, that have led to these kinds of destruction in lives. And that's, I think, what's important. I don't hide behind TV ads. I'm happy to debate whenever. Show up for town hall meetings. Like to meet with residents. You know, but I also have, you know, I go to the independent residences for those with disabilities and sit and have lunch and talk with these families who are trying to get access. I've slept at a halfway house in a treatment home with men who have lived a life dealing with substance use disorder, because I do think it's important that we learn from one another, that we listen to one another, and that we take these real passionate concerns and try to mobilize some effort to solve problems. And we do it all the time. I mean, I joke, I give everybody my personal phone number. I think you must, if you don't have it, I'm surprised you don't, but I hand out my card. It's got my personal cell phone number. I ask people, you know, listen, text anytime if there's something that comes up, and we get it all the time. And that's the job. You know, it's not slick TV ads. It's being on the ground trying to respond to people, and we help anybody. We don't ask you what your party is or who you voted for. We just want to help.
Would you like Donald Trump to endorse you in your reelection bid?
He already has, accept the endorsement. Do
you think that'll help you?
I think it will. I think at the end of the day, upstate New Yorkers know that we need to secure the border and grow the economy. But I call balls and strikes, and I've done this my whole adult life. I'm only 48 years old. I'll be 49 on October 8th. So you don't have to call me to wish me happy birthday. But I've been around a little bit, and I treat public service as a dignified duty, a responsibility. And so I'll work with Republicans or Democrats. I'm the second most bipartisan member of Congress, and now the fourth most productive member of the House and Senate. I only tell you that because I call balls and strikes. Democrat says something I like, happy to say it. Kathy Hochul, I will tell you, I don't like a lot of her policies, but she has committed billions of dollars to try to enhance the mental health system. We need those dollars to get to communities like ours. That's why I work with Jason Garner to try to get the resources to mental health treatment, veteran services in the community. That's why we're doing the same in Sullivan County for mental health support. So somebody, Democrat or Republican, if they do something good, I'll support it. I mean, frankly, there was a Donald Trump's budget some years ago was going to eliminate access to Meals on Wheels. Excuse me. Absolutely opposed to that because it connects access to seniors and families who need access to food. In fact, the farm bill I helped write expands the ability to deliver meals. And so, like I said, I'll call balls and strikes, and I just want the people in this district to have somebody who's fighting for them on the ground and a government that respects them. And I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that happens.
How many broadcast debates have you committed to with Josh Riley?
I have committed to 6, and he has committed to 1.
Which one? The October 10th?
Not the one in Broome County. I think it's in Albany. I committed
to
6.
Channel 13, I think, has one on October 10th scheduled.
There's only one he's committed to. As I said, I used to joke, I'll debate you in a chair, at a fair, on a box with a fox, on a train, on a plane. I just think it's important that we engage in a real healthy conversation. And I'll tell you too, by the way, I just hate the structure of some of these 60-second answers when we have substantive issues to address. I'm happy to engage in a dialogue with or without him. But I've been doing that already. 11 town halls over the course of the last 2 years. a dozen coffee with your congressman, kind of make it a casual conversation. And we've had thousands of community events. In fact, this Saturday we'll be back at tomorrow we'll be back at Morabito Stadium for our Think Differently Field Day. It's an opportunity for individuals with disabilities, their families, service providers to come together, learn about the services that are available, and for us to learn from one another. I do it all the time. I love it. And I love being challenged. It's okay. I've been at the Oktoberfest out in Binghamton last weekend. A good number of people were there, very supportive. There are a handful of people who, saw the ads, didn't know what to think. Some were inclined not to vote for me. And we had such a wonderful conversation. And I think that's truly when we're at our best. Engage in some disagreement, figure out how to pull together and confront the challenges it faces.
Congressman Mark Molinaro, Republican incumbent, being challenged by Democrat Josh Riley. Thanks for joining us today. I know we'll be speaking again in the not-too-distant future.
We will, as always. Be well. Thanks.
Thank you. It's 11:31, WNBF, WNBF.com. It is live and local. And this program is for you. That's why we open up the phone line, 607-772-1290. Talk about the issues, Binghamton and beyond. 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, always available on the WNBF app. As we return to the busy phones. Busy. It's so busy. Vinny in Binghamton, you're on the air. Oh, hold on. Only works if I punch in the security codes. All right, Vinny, you're on the air now.
Okay. Good morning. I just heard Congressman Riley, not Riley, Mark Molinaro. Congressman, I got two questions for you. First one is, all this, when are you guys going to give us a border bill? Where is our border bill? Look, we need surgery on that border, not Band-Aids. All that stuff about talking to people, people, conversations out here. Josh Riley's done the same thing. It's, what are you doing in Washington? What are you doing about the border? Quit giving us these Band-Aids. I just don't get, no. Because I'm going to tell you from now until the election, I'm going to hammer on that border. Because I know they don't want to do anything about it. They've got no plan. They have no ideas. They just keep giving us lip service. Like I said, we need surgery. We need surgeons down there on that border. We don't need Band-Aids. And I'm glad that he supports Donald Trump. You go right ahead. I'm sure you support him when he was at all these functions and talked about all these people in these Haitians out there in Springfield and all the nonsense that's going out there. You got to remember, some of these Haitians have kids, and they're in schools. And God knows what they're listening to right now from other people. Oh, I hear you people eat cats and dogs. Okay? There's a lot more going on than this press wants to talk about. And the second question is this. Where are you going to put that Confederate statue? You want that back in Arlington? Why don't you explain to the people why you want that? That's the one that Hakeem Jeffries went after you about. Why you want this statue in Arlington? They voted it out back in December. You want this bigoted, racist statue back in there? Why don't you explain to those people in all of your conversations? Do you guys talk about that? Probably not. Because I just want to know, is that statue supposed to bring us all together in this country? I hear Donald Trump down there, Bob. This is the guy he votes for. Donald Trump goes in front of one of these Jewish organizations and talks about how if I lose, it will be because of you Jewish voters. I am your leader. Meanwhile, he's got Kanye West and Fuentes, who is a Holocaust denier. This is the guy that said Jews should get out of the country. Now, if that's your guy, you go right ahead, man.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call. I'm going to try to squeeze in a few more calls before we wrap it up for the weekend. Hi, WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's James from Binghamton.
Hi, James.
Hi, how are you doing? I had something a little more serious, but maybe that can wait till next week. We've got a nice vibe going on this morning. Good morning leading into a wonderful weekend. Though not to be pedantic, I do find it funny when any politician says something to the line of thinking that goes, well, because of high taxes, we lost businesses to other countries for cheap labor. And I'm not sure that's the rhetorical flex they think it is, because, like, wait, so we should be hoping for cheap labor or what? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, no, I just wanted to also piggyback off of anybody was talking about going out to, like, the Harper Stance down in Rec Park. It's good music this weekend. A lot of good times to be had, and it's going to be a beautiful fall weekend, so I hope to see you out and about, Bob.
Well, I think I've made a decision to be there, so keep your eye open. And if you see someone who looks like me, just wave.
I did have one quick music note for you because you do ask me about music.
Yes.
I did see this one DJ this summer, and I thought of you because they played the melody loop and hook from Talking Heads, This Must Be the Place. But with the vocals of wordy rapping hook.
Oh, really?
Over top of it. Yes.
I need that. I need that mix.
I don't know if it's something that's available or just a live mix, but maybe I'll try to mix it myself and send it to you. It was great. Yeah, it was great.
Hey, thank you.
I've heard both of those pop up on this show, so I thought you'd appreciate it.
All classics. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend. Little relaxation, little music. Oh, yeah, I'll probably do a little reading. 1/3 reading, 1/3 relaxation, 1/3 music. And then I'll be ready and recharged for Monday's program. Morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is Selena from Binghamton. I appreciate your show.
Thank you.
I was just wondering when the railroad bridge over Front Street will be replaced. I just asking, did you hear anything? Or?
Well, I was under the impression when I spoke with Mayor Cram a few days ago that it would be happening soon. And then I thought I heard something on some news report, and I confess because I wasn't paying really close attention, because some news report I would say said that the Front Street Bridge replacement wouldn't be till next year. But I'm going to see if I can check with the mayor's office to get it clarified. As of earlier this week, the idea was that it could be done this year. He told me that he planned to check with Norfolk Southern to get a firm timetable, and obviously he held the news conference at the Jarvis Street Bridge project earlier this week. That was in the morning, and I wasn't there. And I think I heard one report today where it implied that Front Street may not happen till next year. But the one thing about it is, when they do it, it's not going to take long.
Well, that thing is really crumbling. It's been sitting there since 1834.
Oh, yeah, it's clear it needs it. It's interesting that several years ago, they replaced the other bridge right next to it, but for some reason they only did one during that project. I think they should have done them both at the same time.
Oh, okay. I really appreciate you talking with me. I love you, Bob. Bye.
Thanks for calling 1141 WNBF with the most calls in America. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
It's Roger from Choconet. How are you?
Great. How are things, Roger?
Oh, at least we're not dealing with hurricanes.
Yeah, that's really big. I know a lot of people who are worried about it. I have people I know in Florida, and as I read earlier from our bureau chief in the villages, at least they didn't get a whole lot of rain. I think they got maybe a little over 2 inches of rain and no serious damage, but other parts of Florida are getting hit much harder.
It's amazing how far north that thing is going.
Yeah. I'm just between you and me, I'm no fan of hurricanes or tropical storms.
No, me neither. Are we on the air now?
Yes, we have been, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I called was I listened to people like Vinny and these people scream about the border. Do they recall that in December of 2020, the border was practically closed, 400 miles of wall built, stay in Mexico, 26,000 Mexican troops to help keep order on their side of the border, and that Biden and Harris, somewhere between 60 and 90 executive orders to open the border up, and how many times that Texas went to close the border and the feds brought court cases against them to tell them they can't do that. And they also forget H.R. 2, which was a tough border bill. It was put together in the House of Representatives, and then I think
it's a shame Congress couldn't have acted on that bill earlier this year, though. That would have been nice. At least that would have been a step in the right direction, but I guess that wasn't the time to act on it.
Well, if they had just left the border
No, you can't change what they've already done. I'm not relitigating what they've done. I'm saying Congress was in a position to actually take action, but thanks to Donald Trump offering his professional advice, so this issue would still linger at least through November 5th. That's why the issue is still as big as it is. So I commend him from a political standpoint of doing what he had to do. I'm not sure that was in the best interest, long-term best interest of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or America, but certainly it might help him gain a second term. And after all, that is what it's about. 11:44. We have time for a few more calls. So if you're quick with your finger, if you dial correctly, 607-772-1290, you too may be able to talk on the Friday edition of Binghamton Now on WNBF. It's 11:47. Joe in Binghamton. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the border bill, just the other side of the story is the border bill was just a political ploy for an election year. I mean, that's all it was.
Well, everything in an election year is a political ploy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's what election years are for. We're filled with political ploys and October surprises.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
October should be interesting.
But, I mean, and I'm not casting aspersions on anyone, but I'll just say, given the two candidates that we're dealing with, not just the candidates, I think left to their own devices, everything would be fine. But for some of their most ardent supporters, I believe October will be filled with surprises.
Yeah, I mean, and people got to remember, we're not in a bubble here. I mean, we're a piece on the board. You know, you got to think global politics as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't even talking about that. Just left to domestic, just the fine Americans who feel strongly for one candidate or the other. I'm sure they've got a big bag of surprises to deploy. And then you're right with, we'll say more than 7 billion other people on the planet who may have their own, shall we say, interesting or ulterior motives. Who knows what to expect?
Yeah, absolutely. But on the border bill, I mean, the border was opened when Biden rescinded the executive orders that Trump had in place with remain in Mexico. And I know a lot of what he did, a lot of the population wasn't happy with the executive orders that he signed, but it did mitigate a little bit of the flow. And Biden ran on opening the borders, telling people to come. So, I mean, what do we expect?
Well, maybe. Who knows? Looking.
I mean, it's not a maybe. He did it.
I'm not talking.
What he was saying on the campaign.
I'm saying, given what we saw in late June during the debate, maybe the truth is he was just confused.
Yeah.
I mean, it pains me to say that, but given the sorry performance on the CNN debate in June, I mean, it's hard to believe it's been 9 months since that debacle. And I'm just saying, and look, by the way, for those who aren't keeping track, that guy is still in charge. That guy is still, seriously, he's the most powerful person on the planet. I would love to have 1/1,000,000th his power. Actually, I'm kidding. I don't want that kind of power. But imagine, if you will, And again, I love the guy, but I love the Republican candidate. I love everybody. And
that's the hesitation that I think a lot of people have with Harris is the fact that she's been there. She's been
a witness. She's seen it up close and personal. That's why. And again, I play no favorites. I don't have. It doesn't make any difference personally to me who wins because we have plenty of content after November 5th, regardless of the outcome. I'm just saying it's time for Kamala Harris to start answering a lot more questions. There still are a lot of questions that have been unanswered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems like he was kind of a mess, and it was kind of pretty obvious.
Yeah. Bottom line is, and I hope you don't take it the wrong way, I just feel sad for him.
Yeah, it's hard not to feel bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to like him politically, but as one person to another, to see
he's being used. They've been using him for years now.
Sort of tragic.
Yeah, I mean, even his own family's been using
him.
So.
Well, I almost wonder about Dr. Jill. Was Dr. Jill Biden complicit?
Right. Well, I mean, think back to Woodrow Wilson, right?
Yeah.
He was
strange stuff. Anyway,
his wife was running it.
Appreciate your calling in, Joe.
Absolutely. Thanks.
11:51 WNBF. Yeah, your heart goes out to President Biden if people like Dr. Jill Biden and Hunter Biden and Kamala Harris just didn't intervene while things were getting worse. I mean, when I get to that point, I want someone to intervene. I think that's the right thing to do. When things when the wheels slowly, maybe they don't start to fall off, but things are clearly not working well, then the nice thing, the appropriate thing is to step in and provide help, guidance. It's 11:52 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Bob. Dave from Vestal. Hey, you brought up debates, and I agree totally with you yesterday when you say they should go into debates or be interviewed from people that don't agree with them. And you had a couple callers that disagreed with you and said, no, she should not go on Hannity. I agree with you, Bob. That should happen. And, Trump, give him credit. ABC, they're not fans of his. CNN, they're not fans of his. She should go to Fox and do a debate, Bob. I mean, she deserves as much scrutiny as he does.
Well, Donald Trump deserves to be scrutinized by Rachel Maddow. I think this is the thing. If Donald Trump wants the job, he should announce today that he wants to get on MSNBC some night next week and be interviewed for a full hour by Rachel Maddow. And
Bob,
Keith Uberman.
He would not be afraid to do that, but she'd be afraid.
It doesn't matter. This is not one or the other. Donald Trump knows how to speak for himself. He was on the radio yesterday for over an hour speaking for himself. All he had to say during that hour of free airtime on the radio yesterday, oh, and by the way, I want to be interviewed live by Rachel Maddow next Monday night on MSNBC. That's all he had to say. It has nothing to do with Kamala Harris.
Well, if she was in a debate with
Hey, I'm not talking about her now. This is Donald Trump. What's he afraid of? Go out, announce that he wants to be on MSNBC for 3 hours being interrogated by Keith Olbermann and Rachel Maddow and Ted Koppel.
Right. See, Bob, you're like the rest of the media. You want to talk about Trump and ignore.
Yes, I want to talk about Trump just because she refuses to answer questions from interviewers who are not on her side. It doesn't give him a pass. He hasn't been interviewed by as far as I know, he hasn't been interviewed by someone who is clearly in the tank for Kamala Harris. What's he afraid of? If he wants the job, go right ahead and be interviewed by someone who clearly opposes him and make your case, baby.
He did that. I remember he went before that those black ladies.
No, that's not a one-on-one interview. That doesn't count. That's not what we're talking about. A one-on-one interview with someone who clearly is supporting Kamala Harris. Do an interview with Oprah. Do an interview with Oprah. Everybody criticized the thing, the love fest with the softball questions with Oprah and her chat with Kamala Harris. Of course that's what it was, but they didn't pretend it was anything else. Now, go ahead and say that's what he should do. Today, call into Hannity's program and say, Sean, I only have one thing today for you and the home viewers. Only one thing, and I want to make it perfectly clear. I demand equal time with Oprah. She talked with Kamala Harris in that love fest. Now I want the same sort of setup. I demand equal time with Oprah.
Bob, have we not seen him sit down over the years?
I'm not talking about over the years. I'm talking now for the presidential campaign, baby. Proof. He has so much TV experience. This is where Donald Trump has the big advantage. He has so much TV and radio experience compared to Kamala Harris. It's no wonder she's scared.
Is it not true we need to learn more about her than him, Bob? Isn't that?
It's true we need to learn more about each of them. And it's true each of them should sit down with a series of interviewers one-on-one, live, I say, no interruptions, whether it's an hour or 3 hours, and answer the questions.
She won't.
He won't. Neither of them will, at least up to this point. I want to see, and it could be either candidate. You're right. Kamala Harris probably wouldn't do that. But then Donald Trump, if he is the ultimate candidate, then he ultimately should be interviewed by Oprah, Keith Olbermann, and Rachel Maddow on a special 6-hour edition on MSNBC. I would watch that. I would watch it. Hi, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
John from Binghamton.
Morning, John.
Good morning, Bob. Bob, you wanted to talk about, when Dave just called, what you wanted to talk about. Dave called to talk about Kamala Harris not going on Hannity, and you turned it around to Trump. That's what you do all the time. He brought up a specific point, and you changed you pivoted to a different discussion, totally different. And you didn't let Dave's point. That's not being talk show host. That's being a dictator, so to speak, Bob. Okay. Have a great day.
It's 11:57. And on that positive note, we end the week saying this week was great. Next week will be better. Enjoy your weekend. I'm Bob Joseph. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Binghamton Now on WNBF.